Hey guys, welcome. Today I'm going to be taking you on what I consider an introductory level of computer proficiency that you have to have when working as a professional in content production. So whether you're working in Photoshop, Pro Tools, Premiere Pro, Final Cut, any of those things, especially if you're working on a Mac, all of the shortcuts that we're going to be covering today move through things really quickly. Or will enable you to move through things really quickly. And of course, the whole goal is to get the ideas in your head on the screen or coming out a set of speakers, right? So the skills that we're going to go over today are fundamental to being able to use your computer. So what you must do is not just go through and try to memorize these, but follow along and practice with them. The shortcuts will appear on the bottom of the screen as I execute them. And after we learn a new shortcut, every single time you need to pause the video, execute the shortcut 10 times, take your hands off and shake them out if you need to, and put them back down. The only way to learn these things is through muscle memory, and that muscle memory comes through practice. So let's go ahead and jump in. All right, step one, we need to know how to approach and hold our computer. If you've ever seen a professional guitar player, you know one thing. They know how to hold their guitar in a way that's going to make everything else they're going to learn and practice, chords, scales, etc., be easy. They've got to be holding the guitar in a way that makes it make sense, and so that you can do all of the more complicated things if you want to get to where you're working like a professional. Think about the last time you saw a guitar player and try to imagine them saying, yeah, I'm a professional, and then trying to play the guitar with only one hand and the other hand down in their lap. And yet that's the way so many people that are self-taught on how to use a computer like a Mac or even professional production software work. They have one hand on a mouse, one hand down in their lap, and everything moves really, really slow, just like a guitar player attempting to play one-handed. So let's learn. First thing, we need to take our left thumb, put it on our left command key on the keyboard. So when you put that left thumb on that left command key, you want to root it there because every single shortcut we're going to use is going to utilize that left thumb on that left command key. Now, real quick, let's go through, now that we know that the left thumb is on the left command key, let's see some things we can do with that. Number one, let's say I was trying to switch back and forth between this web browser. So I've got a web browser open and I wanted to switch over to my text document. Hold the command key down with your left thumb and start to tap the tab key. When you do, you'll notice this application switcher comes up. Go ahead and do it. Hold the left thumb down on the command key, start to tap the tab key. I use my ring finger, and that's going to move us through these different applications. Now, this is a beautiful thing because it allows us to quickly jump back and forth. For example, if I was trying to copy and paste something from this document, rather than moving windows around and trying to get things up where I can see them, etc., I can simply go ahead and Command Tab over to my window here and Command Tab back. Command Tab until I get to the thing that I want, and then Command Tab back. Quickly is going to allow us to jump back and forth between. Once you've gone back and forth between two programs at least one time, so for example from Chrome, Command Tab over to maybe Microsoft Word, and then you can see that Microsoft Word is the open program right now. Let me just bring up a document so you can see that. And now if I Command Tab back to Chrome, now I can simply roll my fingers across that Command Tab, and you'll see the shortcut for Command Tab down here at the bottom of the screen on the video you're watching. So step one, you need to understand Command Tab. Step two, we need to be able to use Spotlight. But go ahead and pause the video and practice that Command Tab 10 times until you can comfortably switch to any different program left and right, okay? So we need to be able to just jump to these different programs. All right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and close that out. We've got Command Tab down. Next, we need to be able to use Spotlight. Now, Spotlight will allow us to launch programs. Say, for example, I was going to launch Premiere Pro. So I can simply hit Command Spacebar. Command Spacebar launches Spotlight. Go ahead and do it 10 times. Command Spacebar, Command Spacebar, Command Spacebar. And now let's look for Premiere. If I start to type Premiere, I see all these different options come up, but Premiere Pro is right there. Of course, I could go ahead and hit Return, which would launch that program. We're probably familiar with that, many of you are, but that Command Spacebar is what's going to give us Spotlight. Now, Spotlight holds a couple of different superpowers, so I want to show you those right now. But first, we can use it simply to launch a program, and then I'm going to go ahead and quit this program. And while we're at it, now that we're getting used to this, and your thumb is sitting on the Command key, what you're going to start to notice is all of the shortcuts, almost every shortcut on the Mac is going to involve that command key being pressed down. And there's a simple mnemonic to getting faster. And that is anytime you want to do a command, for example, if I wanted to quit out of Premiere Pro, Once you know the word, the shortcut is almost always Command and then the first letter of that word. So if I wanted to quit something, it'd be very simply Command Q, right? So that would quit it. So, and we can see that shortcut right here, Command Q. If I wanted to make a new something, for example, I could come down to File, New, and see that the option or the shortcut for that is almost Command N. It's actually Option Command N. So we'll look at those here in just a second, but for example, Command O will open, Command S will save. Most of us know Command C will copy, Command V will paste. Why isn't it Command P? Because Command P is usually print. But all of those shortcuts are going to be in use. So let's keep our left thumb on the Command key, and I'm going to go ahead and quit that program I just opened. Whichever one you opened, there you go. All right, so Spotlight, Command Spacebar, is going to go ahead and launch our Spotlight here option. Then what we can also do is, how many of you have ever had the experience of creating a file, maybe you're working late at night, typing away, you save it, you close it, and you come back the next day and you can't find that file. Well, you know it's buried somewhere on the computer, but you don't know where. So let's go ahead and fix that problem. Let's say I needed you to find the actual Premiere Pro file. Well, of course, you could use Spotlight, Command Spacebar, and you could start to type Premiere Pro, but if we hit return right now, it's just going to launch Premiere Pro. That's not going to help us. We need to know where that actual app file is. And so the way to do that is simply to hold down the Command key. And when you've got the Command key held down, so keep it held down, then you can hit return. And instead of launching it, you'll notice it opens up a new Finder window and pops it right there. It takes us straight to that file. So let's say I was missing something for one of my classes, 2450. I could go ahead and type 2450, and I could see all of the things that have 2450 in the name. And if I wanted to go straight to those, I could simply hold down the Command key and hit return. And that takes me straight to that file that I was missing. Go ahead and pause this video and practice that. I want you to think of something that you already know is on your computer, but maybe you don't know where. Pause the video, Command Spacebar to bring it up, start to type that thing. Now, in my case, I'm using actually a slightly different version. It's not actually Spotlight. It's a little app called Alfred that's very similar. But you might notice me occasionally, this little spot that pops in here at the front, I have to hit spacebar if I'm looking for a specific file in here. But you don't. Just start typing 2450, and as soon as you find that thing, hold the Command key down, hit return. It's going to take you straight to that file. Awesome. Okay, let's go on and look at the next thing. All right, the next shortcut we're going to look at is for when something goes really wrong. Like, for example, I've got maybe Word here, and maybe it's frozen and it won't go ahead and quit. So we need to be able to force quit something. The shortcut for that is Command, Option, Escape. So when we look down, I say Command and Option. What do I mean by that? Well, look at the lower left-hand side of your keyboard, and you've got 4 keys that we call modifier keys. The Shift key, Control key, Option key, sometimes called the Alt key, and the Command key. So how do we know which ones these are? Well, if we Command tab over to the Finder window and you look under the File menu, you'll see that the shortcuts are listed right here beside all of the commands. So for example, to make a new Finder window, we could hold down the Command key and press N. Command N opens up a new Finder window. We can close that window with Command W. So Command W will close the window. So let's do that again. Go ahead and do it 10 times. Command N, Command N, Command N, Command N. You see it's just making a bunch of Finder windows, and let's close them all. Command W, Command W, Command W, Command W. So that's a quick and easy way to practice that. Now, when I look at some of these others, I might think like, well, okay, if that's Command N, what's the little arrow here with the entire body attached to it? Well, that's the Shift key. So when we look at these symbols, we see there's only 4 variations on the symbols. So this arrow with a whole body attached is Shift. We'd read that shortcut as Shift Command N. So if we wanted to make a new folder, if we had something selected, this little arrow that has no body attached is the Control key, or Control Command N. And then finally, if you look down here and you see this little guy, you might even see it on your keyboard. That is the Option key. And what it is showing you is a line that normally goes straight across the top, and instead it's taking an alternate or optional path down here at the bottom. So we would read this shortcut, if it was available, as Control, Option, Command, A, right? So there's our shortcuts. We can read any of those, and I want you to pause for just a second, and let's go ahead and do a few of these together, including force quitting a program. So for example, if I was over here in Microsoft Word, I can tell you right now the shortcut to force quit something is Command, Option, Escape. Command and Option held down, and hitting the Escape key brings up my force quit applications. So I could select Microsoft Word and go ahead and force quit it. By hitting the Enter key, it says, "Are you sure?" of course. So go ahead and practice force quitting something. You might get a little error message like that, but that's going to enable us to quickly get out of something that's frozen up. Command Option Escape. Word is open it again, and I'm going to go ahead and force quit it. I do not want to restart Microsoft Word and say OK. Awesome. So now we've force quitted and we've learned a little bit about these shortcuts. All right, so practice those for a second, pause it and come back, and we'll hit the next ones. All right, the next thing, now that we have identified some of these, we've learned the force quit option, we've learned how to use Spotlight to find files, we've learned how to determine the symbols for those modifier keys, right? We also want to make sure that we know that when we're working on a Mac, that the active application we're going to see up here in the upper left-hand corner. So for example, if I were to switch over to this preview program, even though I'm still looking here at the Chrome window, I'm actually seeing preview. So if I did a shortcut right now, that is going to do a shortcut for preview. So for example, the old new option or open option is going to apply to preview. It won't apply to Chrome. So if I hit Command O to open something, it's going to say, well, what do you want? Where do you want to open it from? And we'll look at that here in a little while, but that is a simple way of knowing our shortcut. So we've looked at how to recognize these different shortcuts as well. So let's go practice some that you'll use all the time. I'm going to Command Tab over to the Finder. Go ahead and Command Tab over to the Finder, and let's look under the Go menu. Under the Go menu, we see shortcuts for things that we use all the time. For example, I regularly have to get to my Downloads folder, or I regularly have to get to my Desktop folder. So for example, the shortcut for Desktop is Shift-Command-D. So Shift-Command-D is going to open that up and immediately let me see that in a Finder window, my desktop. I can close it with Command-W. Let's go ahead and do that a bunch of times because that's a shortcut we'll use all the time. Make sure you're on the Finder. Command-Tab until you're at the Finder. Shift-Command-D will open it up. Command-W will close it down. Shift-Command-D will open it up. Command-W will close it down. Go ahead and do that until the muscle memory starts to form. Shift-Command-D to open it up. Command-W to close it down. Now let's take it one step farther. Pause this video, practice that a few times, then come back. Anytime you learn a shortcut, you want to practice it 10 times to start to build the neural pathways and reinforce those over time. I promise if you go through this a few times, then it's going to make everything flow and easy on your computer. So Shift-Command-D to get to my desktop, Command-W to close it down. Let's do one more. Shift-Command-D is going to open this up, and I need to make sure that I can do things like make a new folder. Now, for example, you'll notice I've got a bunch of different stuff here on my Mac. I've got my hard drives visible, I've got some favorites, and let's say I wanted to make a new folder to store something in. Well, under the File menu, I can learn the shortcut for making a new folder. Shift-Command-N. Let's go ahead and practice that. Shift-Command, both held down, and N creates a new folder. Pause the video and make yourself a new folder. Once you're back, now let's select that folder, untitled folder is what it's labeled, and go ahead and hit the return key a few times. Notice what happens when we hit the return key. What's happening? It is putting it into a rename mode. And when it's in a rename mode, we don't have to backspace over this or start, click in here and then backspace to rename it. No, once it's in a rename mode, hit the return key, I can simply type. So demo folder, it's going to let me quickly create a demo folder. Now we know where it's at. Now we know it's there. So practice that, Shift-Command-N, make a new folder, use the return key until it's in rename mode, and go ahead and make yourself a couple of practice folders. Pause the video, go practice that, come back in just a second, and we'll move on. All right, now that you're back, what if we need to delete something like one of these folders? Well, we could certainly do that. When they're selected, you might notice hitting the delete key doesn't seem to do anything. That's because if your left thumb is sitting on the command key, the Mac operating system assumes you probably don't want to very easily delete files, so you do have to hold that command key down and then hit delete, and you'll hear it hop on out to the trash. I can also use the up and down arrows to navigate my Mac. So I'm going to navigate down to this one and go ahead and delete that one. So Command Delete is going to be a quick and easy way of deleting any files you've got selected. So we've looked through Spotlight, we've looked at force quitting, we've determined the active application by looking up here in the corner, we've looked at our Finder window a little bit, and now we need to go and look at some of our options for sorting our files. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and Command Tab over to the Finder, and let's make a new window. Shift-Command-D is going to open up this desktop window here from the Finder, and let's look at these few last things that we could compare. So in this case, right now, I don't have a whole lot on this desktop, right? But what I can see is a few different ways of viewing this information. All right, we're getting through this quick and initial kind of setup of understanding these shortcuts, and I will have a separate drill video for you to go through and practice some of these so that you get really drilled in. But let's hit these last couple of things. I'm gonna go ahead and Command Tab over to my Finder and Shift Command D to create a new window here. Command Tab back so I can check my notes. One of the things we need to make sure we can view is these different ways of viewing our files. So when I Command Tab back, you see, for example, that I'm looking at this single folder, and currently I am in list view or detail view. So when I hover over my different icons at the top, I can see there's different ways of viewing this information. So for example, the first one is icon view. And depending on which version of the Mac OS you're looking at, you might have slightly different arrangements of these buttons. But go look for them, click on them, and you'll see that icon view would be really useful, for example, if we were looking at screenshots, for example. This would allow me to quickly pick out different shots, for example, this beautiful one of my wife, or some other screenshots and content that we might have here. So icon view is really useful for pictures and occasionally videos. You can adjust the size of them down here at the bottom with this little slider in the lower right-hand corner. Icon view is not very good though, if I hit Shift Command D to take it back to the desktop. Not very useful when you're looking at a whole bunch of files like this. So the shortcut actually to get over to icon view is Command 1. And you'll notice Command 1, Command 2, Command 3, and Command 4 move you through these different ways of viewing your files. So if you're in a folder full of pictures, this icon view is really handy. If we're using it for production work, I typically stay in this between this list view and column view. So Command 2 will take us over here to list view, and column view will take us to this rows and columns. So let's look at the benefits of detail view. I'm going to come up here, and one thing you'll discover is in detail, a list view, I can click on these columns to sort things. So for example, if I was trying to find the biggest video file in this folder, I could click on size and sort by size and find quickly that this video is 3.4 gigs. If I clicked by date modified, I could quickly find that file I was working on yesterday. What was that? So a quick sorting of date modified is going to switch those up. And of course, if I wanted to sort things alphabetically, or if I jumped to a different folder, I wanted to sort things alphabetically, I could click on name and quickly sort things. Now you will notice that there's a few other things that we might want to do in here. For example, let's say that I've got something like remote equipment form. It's not even spelled correctly, but I wanted that to always appear at the top of my list. Well, I can certainly put it into rename mode. So the return key puts us in there. The text is selected, so I'll simply hit the left arrow so it moves to the beginning, and then I'm going to add a space or two. And notice when I hit return to accept that change, that now, because it has spaces, that file moves up to the top. Go ahead and try it yourself. Pause the video and go in and sort by list view and add a couple of spaces to maybe your folder or file that you need to use. I tend to use this on things where I know that I need that a lot right now. Maybe it's a project I'm currently working on, and I'll just add some spaces to that folder so it moves it all the way up to the top of my list so I don't have to really go hunting for it, especially if it starts with something towards the bottom of the alphabet. So I could also, if I'm done with that, I'm going to go in, hit the return key, hit my left arrow to move to the beginning, and the delete key to delete some spaces, return again, and it drops back into its old way. So that's great. That's one of the many ways we can use this. If you don't see these particular options like date modified, go ahead and use the right side of your mouse button and right click, and you'll see options to create other columns like date created. That might be useful if you knew exactly when you created that file. If you don't need that though, I tend to leave date created off because date modified tends to be the fastest way for me to find things. But there's other things you could turn on in here too. Comments, tags, and you could add those things to it to find specific files. Really handy. Let's go ahead and close this out. The one other thing I would show you is that column view actually does have some useful information in it that we actually don't get with list view. So notice in column view when I select this, it actually gives me a lot of information over here that it may not have in list view. So for example, here I can see my date modified, my size, what kind of file, and of course the name. But if I were to go in and find, let's say, a video file, let's say come in here and look for something like a video file, movies, okay, I've got a bunch of just random video clips in here. But if I was trying to find information about this file, when I switch to column view, either by clicking here or Command 3, I can see more information about this. This says it's an MKV file. It's 14.7 megabytes. Tells me a little bit about it. It shows when it was created, modified, and last opened. But for example, if I was to go in and look for some other video, like one of these, it might also give me information about the resolution or size of the file. So how big and what the dimensions are. So sometimes using this is really handy. And the other benefit is you can actually use the right and left arrow keys to be able to switch and move and navigate through these different folders. So sometimes that's a fun and easy way to be able to navigate, is using your left and right arrow keys and quickly drill down into a folder. All right, the fourth one, this view, this kind of quick look view, is useful for some file types, but I really don't use it all that often. So I almost always am switching between Command 2 to look at the list view and Command 3 to switch to column view. So go ahead and practice switching between those views right now. Keep that left thumb on the Command key where you're supposed to, and we'll come back and keep moving on. All right, the last thing we want to do is go through and make sure you've got some things set up so that your computer works in a way that's going to facilitate you getting your work done quickly. So in order to do that, I'm looking here at all of the locations and favorites and things that I've got, and I want to make sure that you know how to adjust those too. So let's Command Tab over to the Finder. Once we're at the Finder, we're going to go in and make some changes to some of the default settings. Under the Finder menu, first let's go to Preferences. So Finder, Preferences, or the shortcut is Command, comma. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and do Command, comma to bring up my Finder preferences. Well, in here, you're going to have choices like setting up General, and it says Show these items on the desktop. Well, personally, I like to have my hard disks show up and any external drives show up as well. Pretty rare that I have CDs and DVDs anymore, but I like them to show up on the desktop because I do occasionally go to the desktop and I need to open up those hard drives and external disks. So, number one, I like to turn all those on. New Finder window shows, and you'll notice right now it's actually showing you've got a range of options. Either my personal user folder, my desktop, iCloud Drive, etc. I don't use iCloud Drive, and I find it actually to be problematic when you are working with large video files. So I don't find it to be super useful. So I actually, I'm going to tend to just go straight to my user folder. So if I make a new Finder window, so here I'm in the new Finder, and I hit new window, and it takes me straight to my Nathan E. Adam folder. If I wanted that to go straight to my desktop, or not my desktop, but my hard drive, Command N takes me straight to my hard drive. I like it right there in the user folder because I use that quite a bit. Tags, I'm not really using right now, but sidebar, I do want a lot of these things. So for example, locations, I want to have my hard disks available. Notice when I turn that off, all of a sudden I can't see my hard disk. Doesn't make any sense. iCloud Drive, I don't really use, so I'm going to end up just turning that off, but I've got it down here at the bottom so it's not bothering me. So I just go ahead and engage all of these things so I can see both the main computer itself, the hard drive, and any external hard drives and networks. Over on the side in the favorites, that's this list right here, I can have things like recent files, AirDrop applications. I pretty much have them all on. I've got a list of favorites here because I go to a bunch of different projects that I'm working on regularly. And finally, under advanced, I like to, as a working professional, have all of my file name extensions on. So it's not just 12 camera angles to enhance your shots, it's 12 camera angles to enhance your shots.key. That lets me know that is a Keynote file, for example. And as we're working with audio and video all the time, we're going to need to see those 3 and 4 letter file name extensions. So I'd like to make sure all of those are turned on. Go ahead and adjust yours. Keep folders on top in Windows. When performing a search, I want to search the whole Mac. Great, so that's Finder preferences. There's probably a few other little things under here. For example, under my View menu, I like to show my view options. Command J. And again, pause this video as needed so that you can go through and practice these on your own time. I'm going to show view options and see different options here. So for example, every time I open this folder, MDS 2450, I'm in list view right now, so I like to set this to always open in list view. I could also set it to group, to where it automatically groups things, for example, by name or by application. I find that to actually be more distracting. That's just me, but there's nothing wrong with doing it this way, so you can find your Excel files and Word docs and folders together. I tend to just switch it to none because I like to sort by name and be able to find things by name. But that's just me. You can also adjust things like the icon size. I tend to like mine small so I can find all those and only show certain columns. Date modified, size, and kind is what I use most of the time. So if you've got those things open, that's an easy way of being able to customize your view options. Now, other than that, there's a lot of things we'll be going over in class, but this is just a quick and easy introduction to all of the different things you can customize. Now, the one thing I would say, I've seen several people using iCloud Drive. So let's go and turn that off unless you absolutely need it. I'm going to go to my Apple menu, System Preferences, and I'm going to go ahead and type in iCloud. iCloud. When I open up my iCloud, we can see my options here. And for iCloud Drive, I'm going to hit Options. And apps that store documents and data in iCloud will appear here. Personally, I'm not using any of these. So I don't want Liquid Text doing it either. And I don't want Keynote doing it. And I think that's going to be it. I certainly don't want everything that goes on my desktop or documents to constantly be uploading to iCloud. So I'm going to turn off all of those things. You're welcome to use iCloud if you like, but I'm going to typically say it seems to cause my students more problems than not. So I'm just going to turn the whole thing off and keep a copy just in case there was something. All right, so that should be about it. So hopefully this is what you need. I'm going to go through and create a quick practice video so that you can just go along and practice all these things with a little checklist. But this should be an introduction that if you practice these things even a couple times, everything is going to run so much smoother, so much faster for you when working in any of these classes. Thanks so much. We'll see you later.